Oh, this is your Sensei Al Bob, homeless on the range, where it's same as it ever was, and people are so divided they can't even care for their own self-interest. Yeah, I had another fun day of being sleeping in my car. The juice went out on Thursday. Here it is Sunday. I went up to school to expect that AEP would do their job because everybody else had electricity, but the school didn't. And my next door neighbor, who's only 50 yards away, and the power wire that comes from the pole right in, his yard was down, and because it had gotten ripped off of the side of the school by a tree, and John just called AP and said, "I can't believe that a limb would knock the wire off." I said, "Wait till he comes back and sees how many trees are in our driveway." Anyway, same as it ever was. You'd think the next door neighbor would have told the utility company when they asked him how it was. He'd say, "Oh, and by the way, about 50 yards from my front door, there's a wire coming down onto the ground." Well, that's an energized wire. And, it rains real hard and all the water goes downhill towards his front door. Well, that you'd think would be self-interest then. No, couldn't care less. And as I was going down, because I'm back in the library, or because I have no electricity and I had about 2% battery, so I thought I'd come back to the library and charge it up. And so how did you guys like the Cowboy Bobs? There are going to be more of them. It's like cloning. And there are going to be a number of Bobs and Bills and Larrys and Kennys and other male names ending in Y. So, anyway, you know, this is going to be my, I think, afternoon delight for you guys. So, come on. There's one of you there. Who is it? Let's see. Jamie. It's always good to see you, bud. So what do you think's going on? Can you feel the burn? Is the 40 days and 40 nights starting to feel it? Stuff's coming together. So have any of you in North America looked east in the early morning sky, sometime between 5:30 and before the sun comes up, between 4:30 and 5:45? There's a bright star that normally isn't in the east, and it is Nibiru. It's coming on fast, and it's interesting how no one's talking about it. That there's a new star in the east that has never been there, and now it's the brightest morning star, brighter than Venus. It stays observable even when the sun shows up, but once the sun gets above the hills, instead of just giving it a pinkish, the sun, you can't see it anymore. And then, by 7, 8 o'clock, the planet has turned enough that you can't see it. But take a look, because I've been observing it, for the last week or so. Someone turned me on to it, and it's getting brighter and brighter. At 40 days and 40 nights. I mean, that's what I named this series as, 40 days and 40 nights, because I've observed all of these trends coming together. And no one, all we're getting is on the. So I was in a place last night, a friend who had a. You saw me try and give a live chat of meditation from that little cell, monastic cell, but they had a TV, so I was watching, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and all the others. And I was looking at websites because they have a, kind of Wi-Fi there. Anyway, so all I can see is the usual suspects blabbing away about the usual subjects that matter nothing. You know, you can't tell the difference between MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, and the shopping network. There's the only kind of interesting channel is the Discovery Channel or the History Channel. Those two, have something on there. And I've had a number of phone conversations with what's his name, and again, he reflects the the status quo, because whenever I try to bring a subject that you know reflects on something that matters, he don't want to talk about it. He just wants to talk about how his daddy is, keeping him from what he wants to do, and there's his high school friends are jealous, and come on, buddy, you're 40 something years old, and you just have to. I am. I am, homeless on the range, where the deer and the antelope starve. It's like a place that you can't believe, because children, 40 million, go to bed hungry in the richest country on the planet. No one's talking about, and the drug addiction rate of the opioid thing is like, thank you, Big Pharma, They made billions. They paid off the congressmen and the FDA. So, because, 10 years ago, the FDA said, okay, this drug is fine for someone who is palatable, dying of cancer and has pain. Okay, good for them. But not for somebody who has a toothache, not for somebody who sprained an ankle, no. And you don't give them 60 pills, maybe 3. And I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about things that could easily be fixed, And I spent 40 years trying to politically, socially, technologically. That's why I started the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technology. Yeah, I got employed, people wanted to hear about that information because, the powers that shouldn't be, they were interested. And in those 40 years, I thought being on the inside I could help out, but, not so much, because, the cowboys that you saw this morning really represent the psychodrama of our culture. And what's his name is the canary in the social coal mine. And unless, we still have time. If you folks out there who are part of the family want to step up and be that pebble in the pond, we could deal with this. There is nothing big deal about what's going on, because once you connect the social pond, the collective consciousness of humanity, into love's co-creation, bingo, not a problem. We could deal with this in a week or two. But what's happening? It's right in front of our face. This whole thing with Saudi Arabia, right? This is all. Nothing just happens. This is all orchestrated, right, by the hidden hand, the KM mob. It's all. And you can look back at history. You can look at, the Nazis, the communists, the World War II, World War I, Spanish-American War, Civil War. They're all the same, the hidden hand. And flying saucers started on this planet with dimensional characters. People, like Newton, Ben Franklin, were fooling around with the ether. Go read their stuff, right? They were all Masons, they were all connected. They understood about this esoteric technology. And the flying saucers that people saw in the 19th century, starting in the 1830s. My next, I'm doing some research. There's the Thule Society, and there is, the Madame Blavatsky's little society, and a whole, the ISIS Foundation, a ton of esoteric and occult entities. And esoteric and occult only means hidden knowledge, right? The guys who are the Satanists, that's another little neck of the woods. Okay, you guys are starting to comment. Let's take a look. Freudian slips. Very funny. You like that, eh? Things are certainly changing. I'd imagine it'll all happen at once. Yes, like a rubber band, it snaps. But again, we can relieve the pressure, go look at, start meditating, go into state, when you can do that, because when the stuff hits the fan, if you can go into state, you can slip into an alternate reality. Much better to, instead of fighting off the, and the zombies aren't going to be, somebody with a virus. It's just going to be the shoppers from Walmart. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 55 trillion is nothing. I mean, that's just, yesterday's debt. We have billions of trillions of dollars of debt, meaning money, everyone's money is worthless, And that's what they're going for. They're going, the big slip is going to be, so this thing with Saudi Arabia, right? And so we're going to have to go after, what's his name, MKB or whatever his name is, and he will retaliate by simply shutting off the spigot, and the oil prices will go up to $200 to $400 a barrel, and gasoline will be $30 a gallon at the pump. So how are you going to get around on that one? And then the U.S. dollar will stop being, like overnight, the default currency. It will stop being the petrodollar. And then everybody who owns, for the last 50 years, China has been giving us stuff for treasury notes that are worthless. And the rest of the world has too. Commodities, finished products, services. And that's one of the reasons why we are unplugging from the globalized world. And we're going to go into our little tribal things, and wars are going to start breaking out. You think the wars are bad now in Yemen and Syria? That was just, and Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and all through Africa. It's going to be all through Central America. And all of the people coming up from Mexico, all of those gangs the CIA started during the Iran-Contra. All of this is a scene out of a, grade B movie. Go listen to Gil Scott-Heron's, this is a grade B movie. That's but a movie, Look who was our president during that period. Ronald Reagan, a Hollywood movie star. Come on, And it all started, really hitting the fan with Woodrow Wilson. But, Lincoln gave this speech saying, we just fought the Civil War. And you're telling me that the corporations won? And, the Civil War was about the corporations having, constitutional, inalienable rights? No way, over my dead body. And 3 weeks later, he was dead, And Johnson put in the corporate stripe to give corporations inalienable rights constitutionally, right? And and then we moved right into J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller and everybody and Getty and the old wealth of the Astors and the Biltmores, all the railroads, and they just bought up everything. 1/10 of a penny on the dollar. Got all the gold from California, and forced Napoleon into a war with Russia, and then he had to sell France's part of the United States. I mean, this is all scripted. None of this happens, and it's all right in front of you. You can, you don't have to be Sensei El Bob to see all this stuff, right? And all you have to do is step back. It's all about perspective. Just step back and see what's going on. So let's see what you guys are saying. Boop, 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 boop. Something changing. I've been doing big changes, but just the four of us right here, can help navigate humanity through this morass. We don't have to end up eating ourselves, Good evening from the UK. I think the important thing is don't worry, be happy. Exactly. But on the highest level, yes, you have to co-create with love. Yeah, but this isn't even the apex of technology, guys. You have to realize 1 billion years ago, technology was way ahead of where we are now. And, in the 1790s, there were cadres and cartels of powerful people, specifically the Khayyam mob, who had already, gotten all the money out of the Bank of Babylon and Egypt, and had already isolated all the technology from 1 billion years ago. And they were flying around in time machines and spaceships in the 1790s. This is all there. You can see it. I'm going to download. I'll tell you about, depending on my access to the internet tomorrow, of all of this. So, because there are other groups out there that have been around for 1,000. Like, again, go look at the Khayyam mob, who then became, the Illuminati. But that's just one flank of the Khayyam mob. They are all the reptilian morons. And we can calm the storm, like when the old crone taught me how to ameliorate a storm weather. When I would lie in the heather in her meadow and stare up at the clouds that hadn't been chemtrailed. And I could turn those cumulus things into elephants and bunnies and keep the rain off away from me, or bring it when it's needed, but not with chemicals or HARP, but with my heart and soul. Let's see. Consciousness research. Yep. And hello all. Hope everyone is well today. Well, it's a beautiful day. It's a little cold. I'm going to get out to sleep in my car. Actually, back to India. In the days of the Vedas, exactly. This stuff has been around forever. And it's just the powers that shouldn't be that keep it out of the hands of humanity. That's what Tesla tried to do, and that's why he was ruined. And Farnsworthy did the same thing. Everyone, there are a ton of people out now who, in their garage have isolated, zero point energy and gravomagnetic propulsion. And that guy in Hedges in Canada. And I was at a conference at MIT, and there were a bunch of colleges that were working on cold fusion. And it was like, the seventh grade science fair. Some people had it down, and it was working pretty amazingly. I mean, it got overpower, meaning the current that was going in, they were getting 40 times more back. And anyway, so it was in this kind of you know auditorium, and people had their little tables around, and they had their little experiments running, and people from all different colleges were looking at it, and companies like Toshiba and guys like that, and guys from China had their checkbooks, and the guy who was the head DARPA guy, who was the head dude at MIT, said, you know, I told everyone they couldn't have this conference, so I go away and you do it anyway. Anybody involved in this is fired, even if you're tenured. And everybody who's coming from another university, if you don't take this stuff down now and walk away, you're fired. You'll never do another project ever again. And all you people with the checkbooks, forget about it. Oil is the only thing working right now. And he walked off stage. And I was there for this conference. I watched it. That was the day, zero point energy died. It was almost going to be there for everybody, and that was 1982. 92, 2002, 2012, almost 40 years ago, We went to the moon almost 60 years ago, and we haven't gone back. We had the Saturn V that could put, 1,000 tons into low Earth orbit. Man, if you just shot 10 of those in there, you'd have enough hardware to do anything. We didn't, Boop, 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 boop. What? You guys aren't going to do a thing? Come on. All you got to do is meditate. I mean, I could whine and complain about, the things I have to deal with. I did a little bit at the beginning of this, going on about the same as it ever was. And my little cowboys, which I'm going to do more. It's going to be like, I don't know if any of you guys ever watched Stargate on Sci-Fi Channel about 20 years ago. It ran for about 10, 11 years in the 90s into the early O's. And it was a great show because it's exactly the technology they got out there, right? It was one of those little heads up, like, hey, kids, this is what's going on. Anyway, there was and they had some really great villains. And there was this guy named Baal, who really is, and the thing I loved about Stargate, all the Egyptian bad guys were straight up out of the old books and the Old Testament and the Torah, and it was like, why go to college when you could just watch the show and it would give you the 411 on all of these folk, and then when they had other villains like the replicators and the guys from another solar system, the Ori. I mean, they were great. They were like the religious right. They were like Mike Pence, and but this character Baal, which actually is in Egyptian history and also in Sumerian history. And and he was an over-the-top villain. Anyway, in this show, he to protect himself, because he was kind of painted into a corner, he created clones of himself, right? He had about 20 of them. But with each generation of clone, it was like a Xerox. They just got stupider and stupider. And Cowboy Bob, there's going to be lots of them, Billy's and Larry's and Kelly's, Bobby Kenny, Bobby Larry. And it's going to be each, characters is going to be stranger and stranger. And they're going to represent, like you said, through, psychic slips, different characters. Let's see. So come on, guys. We got to do something. You can't just sit around, at least meditate, at least practice going into state. Yes. Well, actually, it's not just to jack up the prices. I mean, jacking up the prices when there is no money to buy anything is worthless. No. What they're planning to do is to basically, if you want to be part of this, like the Bible says, taking the number 666. Well, we already are. Like I keep saying, we're a carbon-based bag of water. So we have 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. That means that's 666. So we're already 666. What they're going for is like what already exists in China and in India. They have no money. What they have is an app on your phone. And when you buy anything, you just kind of get your phone close to the sensor, and bingo, it makes the transaction. And they're going to use your face as the transaction, right? Because the biological dynamics, are it. Sorry, that's the way it's going to go. So, and everyone's going to go for it, because if you don't transact, and let your soul, your consciousness, be sucked up into your phone, and it's already been, foretold by Chris Carter on the most recent generation of the X-Files. There was a great episode where Mulder is in a coffee shop and his phone rings, and it's one of the lone suspect guys, the guy with long hair and the glasses, who's the really smart one, and he died. They all died, saving us from fascism in the old thing, but they brought him back because the powers that shouldn't be, before he kind of, went into the other realms, they sucked his consciousness up into a server, right? And the server was in the Long Lines building in New York City, which is I worked on in 1978, no, even earlier, 74, before 1976. I worked on the stuff underground. The building didn't really get finished until the mid-'80s, but they've been working on it for like 20 years before they started going up. It was underneath an old AT&T building, which stayed there as a facade, and then in the 80s, it's like 30, it doesn't have a single window. It's this kind of red material, covering it. It's still there. It's off of Hudson Street. And I lived just down the street. I lived on Hudson and Duane. So in the revisited X-Files, they basically, again, gave the 411 of this is what's going to happen to humanity. And that's what the X-Files was all about, to put in the gestalt, or the subconscious, the cultural subconscious of, the consumer class, of the useless eaters. Hey, this is what's going to happen to you in the next 40, 50 years. And, the other thing that keep going on about the bird flu, wiping out 90% of the human race. And the other thing, back in the day, in the 80s of the X-Files, there was a scene where Mulder and Scully's boss Skinner, gets infected by nanobots, and the smoking guy has his little smartphone, and he could either get the guy close to death or make him feel great, and just by moving his finger up the screen, and that's already happened. What do you think chemtrails are? We're breathing in that nanotechnology. It isn't just to first off, if you go to the Oppenheimer Ranch, you'll see that global warming as advertised as a joke. That's not what's going on. Our weather has more to do with what's happening in space than what we're doing. Yes, the crap we dump into the environment is not good. It's deadly toxic to us. But the powers that shouldn't be want to kill us off, so that's no big deal. Kill them off. Put the fluoride in the water. How could that shit actually do anything for your teeth if you drink it? It has to go through your colon and everything and be metabolized and then brought to your teeth. No. Drinking fluoridated water, just go, wee. No. Maybe on toothpaste, but no. And it really has never been proved to do anything except kill you and turn, those three little glands in your brain which connect to love's unconditional forgiveness into stone, your hypothalamus, your pineal gland, all those things that make us, the consciousness who we are, So let's see what else you're saying here. All right, let's see. Paper, gold, silver will never be paid. No, of course not. Like I'm saying, your bag of water is going to be the money, and the connect will be your smartphone, and your privacy and free will be the currency, not gold. A cashless society that's addicted to convenience. Those people would sell their mother for an easier, more convenient app. Yeah, I got no fire to light. Again, sleep in my car. Well, at least it's not 20 degrees below zero. What's his name wants me to go to California, but it's hard for me to, when there is no balance in what's his name, to really, I'd have to depend on him for my safety. At the very least, I can go back to the deep green. Yeah, it'll be difficult. It'll be cold, but at least I'm safe and secure out there. Yes, and again, words matter. So, the breakaway civilization, that is a good term because that's exactly what they're doing. Deep state, that's a fake. It's it's like Donald Trump. He's there. He was put there to distract us. Boy, is he doing a great job. Yeah, we weren't taught true history, and we